Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-fi, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, Click OK, Eli, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server. So welcome one and all.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, I'm taking a rocket ship today.
You're taking a rocket
I see
ship?
where we are.
Is that right? We were discussing the Narnia equivalents in the pre-show. That is to say that when people argue about what could or could not take place in an area that does not exist, known as the vacuum of space, it is equivalent to arguing about whether or not the fur coats in the wardrobe could withstand the temperatures that they claim to be taking place in Narnia. There is no Narnia. There is no outer space sky vacuum. It's all fake. Don't need to argue about what might or might not work in it. Meanwhile, let's do a couple of housekeeping questions. Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Yes, I can. You go to the center of the earth.
Nobody's going
I
to
heard
the center of
Thunderfoot
Earth.
can.
Go ahead.
I just said I heard Thunderfoot can.
Yeah, he
Is
went
that
to
so?
the
We're
center
going
of
to
the
find
earth.
out. It's going to be a surprise for me. So while I was making Omi videos yesterday, Brian doesn't like the process at all. And in fact, he despises it and is rightly so offering a word of caution when it comes to doing it too, which is very gratefully received. The constructive criticism, that is. But unfortunately, that means that he's hustling away the G Plus panel while I'm making them. And yesterday, he was very keen to watch the Thunderfoot video, which I did not do because I was making Omi videos as they were recording it. I doubt they were recording it, but certainly watching it on the G Plus panel. So whether or not that means we're going to get an attendance of those particular individuals, Brian immediately said, I might not even be around tomorrow. And you're like, well, thank you for stealing the thunder of everyone's green. We'll react to this as it comes. But they've watched it. I haven't. I'm hoping that a couple of them will be in attendance when we do actually cover that video. So we'll get to the Thunderfoot video shortly. But has anybody else watched it here amongst the panel or amongst the Discord server? Thunderfoot's latest video is what we're referring to.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
It uses a protractor in the flat surface.
I haven't watched it yet. No spoilers. Don't ruin it. Okay, well, that's slightly different then. Let's think on my feet. Well, in that case, maybe typically when we do these videos, right, I am almost always the one that's controlling everything that happens in terms of I'll stop it, I'll start it, I'll respond, and then I'll carry on. Whereas if you guys have already watched this, there's no reason why I can't just play and pause the video at the moments that you know are appropriate and have you respond in the way that you already know. So although it is fun to watch me do it green, I'm more than happy for you guys to do it if that is what you are willing to do. Are you?
No. I'm happy to watch this video a second time. It is a bigger blunder than gas, go down, go boom, boom.
Okay, so for the audience's reference, the last time we covered Thunderfoot, he asserted that gas goes down with gravity. And boom! Job's a good one. Right, gas go down, go boom, boom is attributable to Thunderfoot in no small part. So, yeah, thanks for that, Thunderfoot. Gas expands in all directions. It's a law of nature. But according to him, it goes down, go boom, boom, like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank. Epic. That hasn't gone away. We still reference it. Not so much in the last year, maybe. We've got other things, other fish to fry, rather than dealing with outdated, debunked heliocentric rhetoric like gravity, and in the same vein, debunking the claim that we have a sky vacuum called outer space. We don't. But the answers for why we could have that pressure that we all breathe and is definitely in existence without containment, it is asserted that gas, which is produced at ground level and expands up and out away from the ground, actually falls down like bouncy balls, as I say, poured into a fish tank by Thunderfoot. So that's what we'll be covering today. So obviously some of you have already covered this, or already seen it at the very least, but we'll get right into it if that's good by everybody else.
Vacation. And it suddenly occurs to me, I spent almost all of my life on this spinning rock, and I've never yet measured how big it is.
Immediate begging the question fallacy. So within 12 seconds of his opener in a video that's claiming that he's making flat earthers cry, he's already assumed his outcome in this false dichotomy of globe Earth versus flat Earth. In terms of measurement, Earth's measured flat. He's automatically assuming that he's standing on a spinning rock. That's a begging the question fallacy.
But I don't want to spend a lot of money or time. So let's see if I can do it in, say, less than a day, and for less than $100 to measure the size of the Earth.
You'll be measuring it flat.
Something that might make all of the flat earthers cry that you can do it so easily and so cheaply.
It's so true. It's so true. I was laughing so hard that tears were coming out of my eyes at this dude. It is true.
Can it be done? Well, let's see. Imagine you're on vacation in America and you can visit 2 points north-south like that. And you can also measure a point at infinity, like, say, for instance, the pole star. And imagine you've done that at your 2 locations. After that, it's just a...
I'm missing something. Why is he holding a ball up?
I don't know. He just invoked north and south. That's respect to a horizontal plane of reference. What is he talking about?
Precisely. He's referencing horizontal to describe these directions, but he's holding a ball up. Okay. I mean, it's non sequitur at this point, but I've already pointed out he's begging the question, but now he's holding a ball up like it's got something to do with this measurement.
Simple bit of geometry to get the size of the Earth. Cost of measuring the Earth. Let's see, a $6 bubble level, some $3 crate.
So, what? A $6 spirit level? We're supposed to be
Nathan,
measuring...
you need a nice and flat baseline.
Say again.
Of course you're going to use a level. You need a nice flat baseline.
So he's going to be measuring Earth flat then? And he's using a tool for establishing flatness for $6. Why? Isn't he supposed to be measuring sphericity?
Crayola markers and a ultra-strong trifold foam board for about $10 from Walmart. A $7 protractor from Staples. A $10 laser pointer from...
Sorry, what's the protractor for? We're going to be measuring some angles with respect to levels. Is it just me, or is this already without doubt going to be a flat Earth proof? Thunderfoot's about to measure Earth flat, isn't he? I said it in jest. He is definitely going to measure Earth flat, isn't he?
Yes.
From eBay, and about $50 of gas money. That's not a speculative list. That's exactly what I used. Some $85. Now, bear in mind, I'm doing this for the first time. And when you're doing things for the first time, it doesn't always quite go as planned. By which I mean on the day and night I was going to make the first measurement, a giant thunderstorm rolled in. So do you...
Are we all clear? Just so we're not in any sense of ambiguity later on. Thunderfoot is claiming this as a... What's he calling it again?
It's a measurement.
So when Thunderfoot will be measuring a flat Earth, he's got no issue calling it a measurement. Correct? Just thought I'd make a little note of that. It's okay to measure Earth flat and call it a measurement when you're measuring Earth flat and then utilising that measurement of a flat Earth to claim you've claimed a globe measurement with the flat Earth measurement that measured Earth flat. Okay, gotcha.
You think this is going to put a crimp on my measurements? Good. So we have our laser spot just there. And if we zoom out to our Earth, we're going to be on the equator. So if we take...
What's the equator? Anybody know?
The equatorial plane that was measured flat from elevation angles to Polaris. Is that what it is?
So he's taking a flat Earth concept before he's done anything in his windy microphone. Equator? Where'd you get that measurement from?
Elevation angles to Polaris.
So he's got a flat Earth concept that's taken with a flat Earth measurement to give him this equator concept. I see. Using quite a few flat Earth measurements so far, Thunderfoot.
Our line of sight from the equator about there is perfect. The temperate zone out there somewhere, that should be more or less perfect. There he is, still there. And if we come up to the North Pole, which is going to be about there somewhere, to focus on the spot.
What the hell is he doing?
Up there. So what you'll find is when you're looking at a distant point, at least relative to the size of the sphere that you've got, all the...
Whoa. When you're looking at a distant point relative to the sphere that you've got, what sphere? What's he talking about? Does anybody know what he's babbling about? Beyond his begging the question.
He's assuming level is curved, I suppose, but that doesn't give you an angle, so he can't be assuming that.
Are these lines that are coming off a globe supposed to be angles, then? On his bonnet, he's got a curved line with straight lines like pencils or something coming off them. Are they supposed to be angle measurements? Is that what he's inferring? Because he's not being particularly clear about...
They can't be if they're on a curve.
Well, they're not angles if they're on a curve, no. I don't know, he's being very vague.
The lines are parallel. Okay, so the reason I come to this place, this is the Vidavooz, just before a thunderstorm.
And I'm totally lost now. What lines are parallel? Lines on your diagram with pencils lying against a curve are parallel. Okay. What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Well, no, he's going to draw two other lines that are parallel, and one will be representative of the terrestrial plane, and one will be representative of the equatorial plane. And then in the confusion, he'll say that's an angle to a curve.
So what you're suggesting is he's introducing this idea of the light coming parallel to the ground that you can't get an angle from because he's going to be transposing this angle into hell with the justification that the light's coming in parallel, even though he's not demonstrating anything of the sort. He's just saying it with a drawing of a curve and pencils on it and saying it's parallel. What's parallel? I mean, we know what he's talking about. I'm just pointing out how vague he's being with his little magic trick. Okay? Where does he get parallel anything from when he's on a spherical surface? Can someone tell me where he gets parallel anything ever? Anybody?
So far, just on his little piece of paper.
Okay. But he's supposed to be taking measurements in reality.
Is because it's a very distinctive place just outside of Laramie and Cheyenne in Wyoming, and it's on an interstate that goes north-south for a couple of 100 miles.
Couple of 100 miles, what, linear distance north, flat earth distance, flat earth direction, flat earth mile measurement. Okay. Is this a flat map? Why have we used this flat map? Where's the globe evidence other than on his bonnet on a scrawled out piece of paper? Is that the only evidence? Because this looks like it's going to be using the latitude and longitude grid system. It's a flat map. Yeah? So we've got flat maps, flat distances, and flat earth elevation angles he's about to perform with a scrawled out diagram on his bonnet that suggests it is parallel. We don't know what it is.
So what I need to do is measure a fixed point, which in my case is going to be Polaris, because it is a distant point, which we know is a fixed position in space. And so if we measure it at two different latitudes...
Latitudes? As in a flat Earth elevation angle measurement to Polaris? So we're going to be measuring a flat Earth then? Latitude is an angle with respect to the ground position of Polaris that forms latitude. So we're measuring Earth flat then, Thunderfoot. Welcome to flat Earth. You can't do this measurement unless you're measuring a horizontal baseline. to the ground position of Polaris. And that flat straight line represents the ground. It's got ground position below Polaris. That's what latitude is.
We can work out how big the Earth is. Now,
I'm sorry, where does he get that idea that he's taking his begging the question spherical assumption and somehow deriving a spherical size with flat Earth elevation angle measurements? You can't.
It's easy to do. All you have to do is apply a spherical radius to a plane. You can do it in your kitchen. You can do it anywhere. Anywhere you need to be a sphere.
But tell me how you do it with your kitchen.
Well, you take two angle measurements. Well, you could probably do it with one. Yeah, you can do it with one. You just take an angle measurement from your flat baseline, because you need that, and then up to a point on the ceiling, convert that angle to radians, and you can come up with a diameter for the sphericity of your kitchen.
I see. So if you were to, by the same comparison, take the minimum elevation angle to Polaris and infer that that's the outside edge of a sphere, then you could derive a spherical radius from that flat Earth elevation angle measurement that you took to Polaris, correct?
Yes.
in principle, you can do this with any star. It's just much, much easier to do it with the pole star.
So you can measure Earth flat with any star, can you, Thunderfoot? Yeah, we know. It's kind of our shtick at the moment. I mean, if only you'd have kept Earth to date with the flat Earth debate, you'd appreciate that what you're suggesting to your audience requires you measure Earth flat.
Polaris. That's the one in this image that doesn't move. The whole sky apparently rotates around it. It's not, of course. The sky is entirely static. It's just the Earth that's spinning in the middle of it all.
If Earth was rotating underneath as a second non-inertial turning reference frame, then we would have, as claimed, a Coriolis deflection. And if Earth was to turn underneath at 15 degrees an hour, then that would shorten a flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Los Angeles from the hour and a half that would be the case if Earth was turning underneath it to the 4.5 hours that is actually the case. So no, Earth is definitely not turning underneath as a non-inertial turning reference frame to induce this apparent effect of the stars, because there'd be consequences. The consequences are very much laid down in your globe Earth rhetoric. They're called Coriolis effect, something we do not observe. Beyond the stars that you're inferring that would give us this 15 degrees an hour of rotational value as a consequence of something you have not validated. That would be the second non-inertial turning reference frame you just claimed Earth was by a pure fiat begging the question fallacy. No, absolutely not. You described it correctly the first time. The apparent motion of the stars as a causal influencer for Earth turning needs to be validated scientifically. You'd think you'd know that. It isn't, and the net result of the effect would be Coriolis deflection, which we do not see.
And it's just coincidence that we have a fairly bright star near the North Celestial Pole. All we're going to do is measure the altitude of the pole.
Sorry, North Celestial Pole, as in the celestial northern hemisphere wrapped around the equatorial plane and extended celestial plane. Those are flat Earth descriptions. Am I missing something, anybody?
I think we missed first step of measuring a globe. You have to first assume the Earth is a globe. I think we missed that part.
No, that's the second step. The first step is measuring a flat Earth. The second step is to assume that the flat Earth measurement that you have just taken can be calculable into a spherical value, as explained by John earlier. Back in the day, we assumed incorrectly that the first step was to assume automatically that you have a ball to be standing on. That is not the case. In order to create the ball for you two back in the day, and until a few moments ago, assume you are standing on by default, that's a begging the question of a sphere, like Thunderfoot did at the beginning of this video, you would first have to have a ball for you to believe you're standing on by begging the question fallacy. And that requires creating the ball with these angle measurements that Thunderfoot is measuring with respect to a plane. They're angles.
Star from two different latitudes. Well, according to the weather forecast...
Latitudes, two different ones. Two areas of equal elevation with respect to Polaris measured off a flat plane with an angle there, Thunderfoot. You seem to be utilising multiple flat Earth measurements, my friend. Welcome to Flat Earth, Thunderfoot. It's great to have you. Thanks for confirming precisely what we've been going through. In no, what's the word? Subtle terms since the beginning of this year. On the front foot, we are describing what you are describing. How Earth is measured. Flat.
It's going to pass. We'll see. So on the first night, the thunderstorm did actually clear low enough for me to get a measurement of it, before the Earth spun quietly under the stars for the...
Now, you see, if Earth was turning underneath the stars, it would be a non-inertial turning reference frame and would have Coriolis effect. That's purely your religious belief leaking out into this measurement that you're actually taking. With respect to a flat plane, when you look at a star that doesn't move called Polaris, giving you your latitude, that's a flat Earth measurement.
The rest of the evening. And like I say, I chose a landmark that would be in both of these shots, so that's the Vidavus there. Then, with a bright, fresh, early start, you have to drive a few hundred miles or kilometers south, which meant...
South? What, with respect to a plane? So you're taking a flat Earth direction then? Notice he's not saying up or around or anything spherical in terms of his directionality. He's utilising a flat Earth to travel.
Driving past Denver, which I didn't think would be too bad, but turned out to be a complete nightmare for someone who is used to driving the great sand dunes, the foothills, the Sangre de Cristos. But nonetheless, it turns out it's actually quite hard to operate a few in the Sangre de Cristos. And because nothing is ever easy, I'm now here in the great sand dunes in Colorado where there are gazillions of mosquitoes. But nonetheless.
Nonetheless, what? You've managed to establish a horizontal plane of reference for this angle? Yeah, you'd need one. And you're measuring a line between you and the ground position of the star you're measuring. Measuring. Say it one more time. Measuring. Now, obviously, after taking this flat Earth elevation angle measurement to Polaris, he's going to claim that this is a measurement of Earth that he calculates after taking this flat Earth measurement. Now, for some reason, we have numpties in our own community that can't accept this as a measurement in spite of the fact that it is, absolutely, without question, a measurement of a flat Earth. Because he's measuring latitude. That's positions that are derived from this measurement and put onto the ground, utilising the ground position with this measurement. So, just to recap, this measurement is two straight lines, one of which is along the ground. He's just had to level his equipment so that he has a horizontal plane of reference in order to make the measurement in the first place. So, he's measuring Earth flat. You don't get angles along the ground if the ground is curving away from you. And the idea that the ground is curving away from you will be derived from this measurement of a flat Earth. Well done, Thunderfoot. 2 for 2.
It turns out it's actually quite hard to operate a few cameras in the dark and get good footage while being eaten by mosquitoes. So I don't actually have any good footage of how I did the measurements here, apart from the...
I'll tell you, and I'll define it for you. What you would have been taking is something called an elevation angle. It's a measurement between you and the star that you are measuring for latitude in this instance. That would be Polaris. So let's just define what an elevation angle is. Target elevation between the horizontal plane and the line of sight measured in the vertical plane through the line of sight. Positive angles are measured upwards from the horizontal plane. That's principles of naval ordnance and gunnery. Alternatively, the altitude angle, sometimes referred to as solar elevation angle, describes how high the sun appears in the sky. The angle is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. Sustainable by design, altitude angle. I've got a whole bunch of these definitions. They all make it explicitly clear that Earth is flat for this measurement. Because it's an angle. It's not two curved lines meeting at a vertex. It's not one straight and one curved line meeting at a vertex either. It's a horizontal baseline between you and the ground position of Polaris, which is flat. It can't be anything other than flat. It's an angle measurement. So I wonder how I'll get around this. Yeah, I already know he'll send the angle to hell. He's already justified it earlier on 3 minutes before by saying something about it being parallel. Yeah, that'll be his justification to move this line that won't give him an angle measurement. That's a fact. He's just taken it with respect to horizontal with a spirit level. That's what he's established. Well, there are no horizontals on a ball. The ball that he'll be utilising is created with this process he's now doing.
Time lapse where you can see me pointing the laser at the stars. So this was at the Great Sand Dunes, which, yeah, I assure you are there, but they're kind of a little low in this picture. So how do I actually make these measurements? Well,
low in the picture? What do you mean, low? Again, you keep using these terms, high, low, north, south. These are all terms that are reference to a plane.
A week or so later, I did actually get some nice video footage of how I did these measurements. So, that's
flat. That's a horizontal plane of reference. That's you levelling, what, with respect to the ball you're on? Does not compute, I'm afraid, there, Thunderfoot. No, you would need a horizontal plane of reference, and that's exactly what you're establishing for your ground position measurement below Polaris, along this straight line that you're levelling with this tool. For pennies, right? You can establish how flat you need to be on Earth for this angle measurement with a few dollars, right? Yeah, how cheap it is to measure Earth flat, because that's precisely what you're doing.
My spirit level, as you can see, is quite level. Now, what I'm going to...
What, on a ball? Does he not understand what level means when he's got something on the ground and he's levelling for an angle that's going to be extending all the way along the ground to the bottom point below Polaris? Its ground position. You're proving Earth's flat, Thunderfoot! Hello? You should have kept up to date with the flat Earth debate. You are measuring a flat Earth. What a clown.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to come out wide so that you can see.
Can we just check, because I already know where this is going. Is this measurement in the centre of hell? Anybody?
No,
Anybody
but
at
it's
all?
parallel with it.
Parallel? Parallel with what? Hell?
Yes, it's parallel with it.
There is no parallel with hell on a ball. What are you talking about? If I bring up this diagram, what are you talking about? See the one on screen right now? In order to have a parallel, you've got to have a horizontal plane of reference as described on the top of this ball. This is what he's actually doing, okay? This light, although it's the sun in the diagram, doesn't matter. It's all the same. This is Polaris. He's measuring an angle between him and the ground position of Polaris. That's a latitude measurement. That's what he's doing. Why is he levelling his tool? Well, because he's establishing a horizontal plane of reference for this line. It's part of the angle measurement of Earth. Because that's this line, the baseline, with a ground position. This is a flat Earth measurement, and the way he's establishing a horizontal plane is with this tool. I didn't get an answer to my question. Is this measurement that is on Earth flat, is it in hell?
Not at all.
Okay.
On the surface.
Let's just make a quick note of that, audience members, that this measurement's taken with respect to the surface of Earth. So we're clear what's actually been measured. It's flat. It's the surface. That's what he's measuring. To get it as flat as possible, he's bought a spirit level. He ain't measuring Polaris where he's standing now, is he? He's measuring two straight lines, one along the ground below Polaris and one to it with a laser light. So we're all clear we're measuring Earth flat on the surface when we measure.
How the hell I did these measurements? You get your piece of paper, which is now going to be level. So what you would do is you get your laser pointer, you get your elevation rate, like that, And once you've got it right,
Sorry, you get your elevation with the pointer. When he says elevation, does he mean his height above sea level? Or does he mean the elevation angle? You need to be more specific. Elevation means height. With what respect to? Oh, sea level. That's how height's measured. That's off a flat Earth too. If you're just talking about elevation angle, then it's the line of sight between you and the object in the sky and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on, as per my definitions. You're playing fast and loose with them. You need to be more specific. Elevation of what?
you would get your marker pen and you just draw down both sides of the laser pointer, and then you measure it up the next day.
And in practice, it looks like this, with the star I'm pointing it at being Alderon.
Sorry. Meanwhile, you showed the actual process at dusk with no lights against the backdrop of the spirit level. I wonder why that was done in smoke and mirrors rather than in studio lighting to define exactly what you're doing. Maybe if it was in a really dusky, hardly, barely lit scenario, no one will notice that you're measuring a flat Earth. Except us, Thunderfoot, you didn't need to be well lit for us to know exactly what you're doing.
Sorry, the star I'm pointing it at is Polaris.
Real quick, Nathan, he did mention that his piece of paper was level as well.
This is what he's doing. On screen now, nicely lit, so you can see what Thunderfoot is doing. He's measuring Earth flat with an angle. I realised that when this charlatan decided to do it, he put it in very, very crap lighting and said, oh, I didn't really know how to get the measurement and I couldn't get it the first night, but let's move on and then give you half the measurement and show you a spirit level against a backdrop of something you can't see and describe my paper as level. So level's got something to do with this then. Yeah, we've got a line along the ground that needs to be level. Along the ground. Yeah, we're measuring Earth flat here, ladies and gentlemen. There is no two ways about what's going on. Doesn't matter how badly lit Thunderfoot shows the method.
The pole star, which is super easy to find once you can see the stars of the Big Dipper. And that you just take the bottom two stars of the Big Dipper and they always point towards the pole star, which, if you can see it, will always be due north.
Okay.
Like due north? With respect to a plane? Like towards the direction of the horizon when you lay a compass flat on a flat map? That sort of directionality that requires Earth be flat to describe it? Does this guy know what he's doing? You're proving a flat Earth left and right.
Welcome to the back of my rental car, where I occasionally sleep, and also a laboratory for measuring the size of the Earth. Right, so previously we had our laser pointer, and we were pointing it at the pole star, and this...
What about the other line? Does he not mention the other line of the angle, ever? Anybody who's watched this, does he just mention the one line and think if nobody notices that there's two lines to an angle, one's along the ground, that no one will notice?
He can't mention it because as soon as he does, well, he obviously knows that he's lying if he's not going to mention that bottom line.
No worries, I'll just put it on screen for my audience that isn't going to be deceived by Thunderfoot Clown and his deceit by omission. This is the line along the ground. It forms part of the angle. It's called a baseline. It runs to the GP of Polaris. That's called a ground position. What is a ground position? Well, it's the point at the zenith of the star if you were standing below it, and 90 degrees to your position. 90 degrees being a square box that you could put at the ground position and run along the ground to where Thunderfoot's making this measurement. He doesn't seem to want to mention the fact that he's measuring Earth flat. He just keeps measuring this line and describing this line only. Well, an angle's two lines, Thunderfoot, you deceitful little man. Yeah? You're measuring Earth flat and just thinking that you can get away with not mentioning the baseline. It's part of the angle measurement.
This was...
I think he's in line with the rhetoric.
Flat.
Say again?
I don't think he's deceitful. I think he's in line with the rhetoric. This is exactly what they teach them.
Okay. Well, what he's just been showing is a measurement of a flat Earth, so regardless of what he's about to do on paper, he's just measured Earth flat. beyond this point, I don't give a toss really beyond this point. What he does on his car is kind of irrelevant to me because I couldn't care less. The measurement was a flat Earth measurement, wasn't it?
Yes, but they have to measure Earth flat to get their sphere belief. That's part of the rhetoric.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we can go through the advanced heliocentric conversion after deriving the globe itself from the radial value derived from Polaris to give him a radial value to start inferring that he's got parallel light rays to move what he has just measured with respect to the surface of Earth into hell, based on having a hell that was derived from flat Earth measurements to give him a model to put the angle in hell with. So we can watch that, but I'm going to dwell here for a bit. I'm going to take it off my audience's screen and stay with this instead. This is what he's just done. He's just measured Earth flat. Now, while we could just whistle past that graveyard straight into how he now utilises the measurement he's just made, with a bit of darkness and a bit of smoke and mirrors to hide the fact he's measuring a flat baseline, to move very swiftly on to seeing how he'll utilise that measurement of a flat Earth to create a spherical surface that he's already assumed, to derive a radial value that he already thinks he's got. Well, no, I don't care beyond this point. He's just made a measurement of a flat Earth. Who cares what he does after this? I mean, it's fun telling people on Omi TV about how the process he's about to enlighten us with in the next few minutes is how the Roman Catholic Church created a globe to put you on. But ultimately, the process is now complete in terms of measurement. No more measurements will be made. We've got our measurement off the surface. It was an angle. That's been done. So we've measured Earth flat. Oh, I wonder what he'll do next. Who cares? Yeah? His audience were shown this angle against a darkened car. I'm showing it in the light of day that it needs to be shown. It's a flat Earth angle measurement to Polaris. It can't be anything else. It's an angle. Now, these lines that move towards ground positions, in this case of Polaris, cannot be on tangents in space, because then it wouldn't be a ground position anymore. But that's what you'll need for this measurement, as slippery, let's call it, with the truth, as Thunderfoot wants to be. You've measured Earth flat, son. I mean, we could. I don't even think it's necessary. We could get into what he does with the measurement after the fact. Do we even need to go through what he's going to do with his measurement? Do we need to see him transpose what we've taken as a measurement into hell? Do we need to do that?
No, the measurement's all that matters. Calculation's irrelevant.
Yeah, so it's game over. Thunderfoot, you measured Earth flat, mate. Now, as I say, we could dwell on what you do with the measurement after the fact, but your calculations will be defying this measurement, because they'll be implying that there was a surface that didn't have a ground position to get the measurement from, and in order for it to still function as an angle, you need to put it in the equatorial plane, extended to the celestial plane, in hell. Not where you got the measurement, that would be on the surface. That would be this. This is the measurement Thunderfoot just made. It is a measurement. It is with respect to the surface. It does have a ground position. It will be a straight, flat line along the ground. Earth is flat. That's how Thunderfoot just measured it. I think we've dwelled on the fact that we've already won at this point, and the rest of what he has to say about what he extrapolates out after his flat Earth measurement is irrelevant. Have we pondered that long enough for us to potentially dwell on his crappy measurements and extrapolations after this measurement of Earth flat? Have I dwelled on it long enough? No, I think I'll do a little call to action. This is the right time to do something different. We'll come back to your extrapolation after your flat Earth measurement later, Thunderfoot. In the meantime, at this nice little conclusory point for me as a flat earther telling people Earth's measured flat, go and let Thunderfoot know. There's a link going by in my live stream chat now. I would hope that were he to respond, he'd put a link to my video so I could share in the YouTube algorithmic love that he is so fortunate to receive, where by decree of Congress we are shoved to the bottom of the list and literally, quote, censored. Because we wouldn't want anything beyond the garbage extrapolation that he's about to go on to be the main focus. It doesn't matter that he's put the dark light of dusk over the actual measurement of a flat Earth. Let's get on to him describing parallel light rays moving to hell, I guess. No, Go and let Thunderfoot know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me to let you know you measure Earth flat with elevation angles to Polaris. Welcome to Flat Earth, Thunderfoot. I'm sending my audience to let you know that you either are stupid or you're deceitful. There's only two choices. You either know that the measurement you're making is with respect to a flat baseline and you just thought it'd be, what? Better not mentioning it. No, that's deceitful. Or you're stupid. One or the other. I don't care which. You have measured Earth flat, and my audience is going to be there to let you know that fact. Because you did. That's how Earth's measured. There's no uncertain terms about it. Globers measure Earth flat, and we told you at the beginning of the year there'll be more and more examples of globe Earth believers measuring Earth flat. And here we are with a nice big YouTuber, PhD Thunderfoot clown, moving on from gas go down, go boom boom like bouncy balls poured into a fish tank onto I'll measure Earth flat with an elevation angle. An imaginary line between me and Polaris and a horizontal plane that I'm standing on, right, Thunderfoot? Well, you'd need to be standing on a flat plane for that. As you absolutely were. Please let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. With a polite comment, no swearing, so it doesn't immediately get flagged by the YouTube censorship team as being removable because you've said the F word. Polite comment, just let him politely know that he measures Earth flat and Nathan Oakley sent you to tell him.
This was made level by a spirit level.
Made level for the angle that's going to extend to the base of Polaris. Well, that's lovely. That was what we pointed out when you were not giving the methodology of this measurement of a flat Earth. Yeah, it was nice and level. Where'd you get that on your ball? You don't. So this is immediately in his process of deriving this angle measurement to put in hell. He's already failed, hasn't he? So in his extrapolation and calculation, he's describing an angle that will not come from a curve and telling me how nice and level it is. Not on a ball, mate. That's a fail immediately. Your description's violating the original measurement, mate. You'd need the angle to have a surface to it, a flat baseline. Now, if you're going to put this on a diagrammatical ball, you don't have an angle anymore. There are no nice and levels on a ball. Don't you know what a ball is? I do. It came from the flat Earth measurements you just took.
And then I would point the angle up such that I got the elevation right for...
So you'd point the angle off a flat Earth up, off the surface where you took this measurement and got nice and level on the surface. Yeah, you did. You did measure a flat Earth. That's correct. My audience has let you know that, hasn't it?
The pole star. And the reason the lines are a little on the wide side for this is because they're being drawn with a fairly chunky marker. But, you know, as long as they're parallel lines, that should be good.
As long as what are parallel lines? Sorry, lines, plural. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did we only see one line going up to the sky, or did we see multiple parallel lines? Is he just making stuff up that didn't happen? Seems like he's just making stuff up. There were not multiple lines in what you just shown us. What you showed us was a single line up to Polaris. What are you babbling about? Where's this parallel crap coming from? You dropped it in earlier and I was kind of confused. Now I'm really confused. What is parallel? The lines you've drawn on this diagram are parallel. What the hell does that have to do with anything? You're measuring an angle with one line to the star and one line on the ground. You're not mentioning the line along the ground, but you're talking about multiple invented imaginary lines that are coming down from the sky. Where the hell did they come from? Did you hallucinate them, man? There weren't any! You stupid nutter! What parallel lines? Am I going nuts? Is it me? Let's not project my own potential insanity onto Thunderfoot. Did I miss the multiple parallel lines now being described? Where was that shown? Anybody at all?
No,
I'm not sure
you
what he's
didn't
talking
miss
about.
it. I think that's him intentionally being deceitful at this point.
Well, we don't get a mention of the line along the ground, but we do get a mention of multiple hallucination and imaginary parallel lines that we didn't see. We didn't see them, Thunderfoot, you hallucinating mate. Now me, I'll just go through the angle that he's describing again and how nice and level it is. What, the baseline? The other bit of the angle that he didn't mention? You'd think you'd have mentioned that other than these imaginary hallucinated parallel lines that nobody saw. I'll focus on that other part of the angle. See this bit? That's the bit up to Polaris. See this bit? That's the bit he levelled on the ground. And it's going to extend all the way to the GP of Polaris on the ground. Earth's flat. Just like Thunderfoot measured it.
So, we have the ones in blue.
Go ahead, Brian.
Each one of those lines that he's drawing are meeting a point on the surface of a convex globe, and none of those points are level with each other. They all will have a drop. From each point, there will be a drop to every other point. So how is he using a spirit level to get level, and then completely denying the level that he just used?
You did join a little bit late, but I did actually point that out. Is immediately when he described getting a nice and level with respect to a sphere in his diagram, you're like, no, number one, you don't get that. And if you're going to suggest it, then your immediate first principle presumption in your calculation, derived from a flat Earth measurements, violate the original measurement. First thing he did.
Yeah, I mean, well, what does the spirit level do? Does it make two ends of a tangent plane level? Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. Like,
no, you can't use a spirit level to establish tangency. Tangency is a single point. Spirit levels don't work like that. Spirit levels establish planes of reference that would be needed for elevation angle measurements. I define that too with two different definitions that made it clear. Horizontal plane of reference the observer is standing on is what you are measuring for this angle. He just didn't mention it. Like I say, he's gone into this batshit hallucination world of parallel lights that aren't being shown. Okay, well, it's just hallucinating.
Blue are from when it was windy in Laramie, and then we drove south, when
Sorry, back to the flat Earth map that you're using. This isn't a globe-shaped map. Yeah, it's using the grid. It's two-dimensional. It's a flat map for your flat journey with your linear distance measurements that you're following and confirming when you drive. Yeah, this is all flat. Is it just occasionally you'll draw on a scrawl of paper on your bonnet and say that somehow the flat Earth that you've just travelled on, referenced for directions, utilised for elevation/elevation angle, you weren't very specific, being a PhD and all. All of these things need a flat Earth. You even describe something being below in your camera. Again, where are you getting these descriptions of flat Earths to insert into your fundamentalist sphere belief? Does it just drop in on your bonnet? And nowhere else. Everything else is flat, but occasionally I'll violate the very measurement I've just made to infer that we've got some sphericity. Then I'm back to my flat Earth maps and my flat Earth directions and my flat Earth distances.
we got the red ones, which is where it was.
Go on, John.
I was just going to say, the trick is to every time you reference something that requires Earth to be flat, you pick up a sphere and hold it. And then you can think that the flat Earth is a sphere.
Pathetic.
Absolute mosquito territory. So what I've got to do is
insert some fluff. Maybe
beyond
we'll
pathetic.
notice the flat Earth angle you measured. Sorry, go ahead. Is that just somebody hot micing by accident? Clearly, yes.
I've got to measure up these angles, for which I'm going to cheat and use a protractor. So, to make my life easier, I am going to get some parallel lines drawn on this thing.
Is that protractor got a curved base line on it?
No, it hasn't.
Oh.
No, the protractor's got a flat base, and the line that it's measuring must be flat. It's an angle. It's two straight lines meeting at a vertex. He's just measured two straight lines with respect to the ground position of Polaris. Now, what he's just said is, I'm going to draw these parallel lines in to make life easier. So you hallucinate that there's all sorts of parallel lines that you don't see, didn't produce, aren't measuring, but they're going to make your life easier. No, your life would be made easier if you had the second line to your angle. It's not just the line up to Polaris. Again, you failed to describe that, but now life's being made easier with multiple laser lights that went up parallel? We didn't see this. Is make life easier, in quotes, just make stuff up? This wasn't in your demonstration, you clown. What a deceitful man.
Line 1, looks good. Parallel line 2, super. Okay, let's measure up this blue guy first. And as you can see, we measure the angle fairly accurately.
Off a flat Earth? Yeah, you will, because what you're describing now, with your hand on one side and the other of a flat protractor base, is a flat Earth measurement to the star Polaris. Now, we're not measuring to the point out tangent to the globe that's dangling beneath this protractor. So if you imagine that there's a globe Earth dangling beneath this now, yeah, because that's what he's going to do. He's going to pretend that the measurement is from the point with a dangling dingleberry Earth. Again, if he'd have kept up to date with the flat Earth debate, he'd know some of these terms. But we're measuring off the surface. And a single point on a globe won't give him an angle because the line isn't going out into space, it's on the ground. So this fails. Again, why we've got all sorts of different laser lights, I'm just for my own sanity. Did anybody else see multiple different parallel laser lights all fired off at the same time when he did the demonstration? Did anybody see what he's now drawn?
Negative.
So he's just a deceiver. You're just a liar, Thunderfoot. You didn't do this.
He just raised the horizontal plane up. Instead of being on the ground, he raised it up into the ground. Or up into the sky from the ground.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, it's because he's got a parallel plane and sky when they actually measure it. That's how he is actually dealing with the measurement.
What he actually did is he denied horizontal after using horizontal, and then he's going to bring that horizontal that he initially used and place it at the equatorial plane of the globe. Even though that won't be horizontal because it's inside a globe.
Yeah, so he's going to, as we already knew, he's going to move this angle into hell to make it function in a globe, not on a globe where the measurement that's now been violated originated. So he's going to violate the measurement of a surface level angle to a star with a baseline and put that now in space, not meeting the ground, only at a single point line that doesn't give him an angle, into hell.
I think this is a great example of the axiomatic relationship that level must be horizontal to get an elevation angle.
Yeah, not only does he not have this level, he doesn't have anything parallel with it if the Earth is a sphere. Now, the idea that Earth is a sphere has come from these derived angle measurements in the first place, for him to beg the question of it, to then claim he's measured a point, not a line, to a ground position that's in space, then capable of being moved down to the extended equatorial and celestial planes.
41, 42 and a half. $35, $36, $37 and a half, and that's sand dunes. Okay, so those are all my numbers, and my spreadsheet assures me that the average of all of these is 37.2, and the average of all of these is 41.8.
Seriously, who cares? He's got these meeting lines that aren't on a globe. What he's just drawn, just make a note of the number, 821. What he's just drawn is angles meeting a flat plane. That's what this diagram is. Now, he's got a parallel line running with surface level. Okay, fine. But he's got a line that's meeting a flat plane. The angles that he's measuring in this diagram, this is his flat plane, this is the angle meeting it. That's what he's just measured. Where's the ball? Anybody? Where's the ball?
That's going to come later. Don't worry. We'll get to the ball
We're describing the measurements.
Earth flat.
So far, this is a flat Earth measurement that he's diagrammatically representing with loads of parallel light rays that he didn't take angle measurements with. There was only 2 different locations. Apparently, it makes it easier. Okay, fine, whatever, you delusionary, hallucinogen-induced man. because you didn't see any of that, and we definitely didn't get to see it in your video. You just imagined it. Meanwhile, this is a plane of reference. That's part of the angle. Here's the angle. That's it. You've measured Earth flat. There's no ball involved.
Okay, so we have a difference of about 4.6 degrees. Yep. Now we need to...
Degrees, what, as in baseline versus line to the item in the sky, measured in radians or degrees. So we've got values that come from a flat plane being described with the diagram on the left still just poking out. That's a flat Earth that is described these angles meeting. Does anybody see a ball-shaped line in the left-hand side of this diagram? This is what the angle met according to his diagram, and he's just drawn it out with respect to what he measured. This is the ground. It's flat. In his own admission, this isn't ball-shaped. Someone says the ball will come later. Like I said already, I've already concluded my point. Earth's just been measured flat. What he has to extrapolate out with those flat Earth measurements is kind of irrelevant. We'll see what he does anyway.
know the distance that corresponds to going 4.6 degrees around the Earth. Okay, so we're going to work in kilometers.
Oh, you didn't go 4.6 degrees around a bent line, did you? The line that you meant wasn't measured wasn't bent in the last diagram. So you're saying that the distance you travelled to measure those two different angles with respect to a plane of reference was around a bent reference line that wouldn't have given you an angle. Again, he's just violated by pure fiat. He's just inserted this, I'm going around a bent line. If you were going around a bent line that you just measured and calculated from, you wouldn't have got your calculations because they wouldn't be angles anymore. Because you've just inferred that the baseline you just took those measurements from was curved. The base wasn't curved, you deceitful man. None of your measurements would have been of angles if it was. So what are you talking about moving around a curve? That was your baseline. The guy's just a charlatan, isn't he? So you violate that line that you use for the angle to claim that the ground is curving now? Definitely not, you just took an angle from it.
Kilometers. And we're going to set this.
This is a flat map with a two-dimensional grid system. This isn't ball-shaped either. So again, we've dropped in assumption just by pure fiat. Oh, and by the way, the curved baseline I just used for angles is curved, and we've got a certain amount of degrees around the protractor I just measured with. Definitely not, Thunderfoot. Meanwhile, you're using a flat map. Why would it be flat? Surely you'd have a ball-shaped map to make your point clear to everybody that everything's always ball-shaped and reference ball-shaped. No, the maps are flat because they too must work with elevation angles to the stars. They were derived from elevation angles to the stars with respect to sea level and the topographical height differences of the land in reference to sea level, which is level. Earth is flat, your map's flat, your process is flat, your measurement's flat, Earth is flat.
This to 200 is only going to be approximate this. And our first point that we measured was just here in Laramie. And our second point was here in the Great Sand Dunes. And it's almost exactly 400 kilometers.
On your flat map, Brian, have you got nothing to say about this? He's using a compass to show the distance with respect to the scale on a flat map. Brian's obviously buggered off.
Okay.
One moment.
So we know that we've got a sphere.
Nathan?
Yes.
Sorry. I had to just get to the phone. I wasn't expecting you to call me. Yeah, I have something to say about it. It's either, this whole video is either him attempting some kind of a troll of us, or he's actually stupid enough to believe what he's doing. It's only one or the other. I don't even think that it's even deception. I think he's just doesn't see that what he's doing is proving our point. I don't know.
I agree with you, Brian. This isn't deception. This is the rhetoric.
This is stupidity then. If you can't recognise that you measure... No, because why put it in the dark and not mention the baseline if it's not deceit? He didn't mention it. I've got it on screen. I've kept it on screen. This is the line that he measured. His angle that he did the calculations with, after he'd used this straight line for the angle in his calculations that he did on the right-hand side of his page, with two parallel lines with angles meeting them on the left-hand side of his page, he then inferred that this was a curved line and that he'd moved a certain amount of degrees along a curved line, which wouldn't have given him his measurement. Now, you're saying, well, that's how the rhetoric works. I agree. But if you understand that you're measuring a line for literally 50% of the measurement itself, it's only two lines. Why not mention the baseline unless it's deceitful and he knows damn well what people might cotton on to if he makes it just that little bit too obvious that half the angles along a flat Earth?
Well, he's using a straight line that he's willing to accept that he's using when it's the equatorial plane. So he could say, I'm not denying, here is the line at the center of my globe. Because that's, I mean, I really do think that he's just purely brainwashed, just a brainwashed idiot. That's the only way I could. I don't even think, because if it was deception, he'd be doing better than that. I don't know. I just think it's. I'm with John. I just think it's the rhetoric.
And we know we've got 2 points on it. The spread by about.
No, you haven't got 2 points on it. You've got 2 angles from the surface. See the subtle introduction of 2 points. You don't get angles from points. You get angles from straight lines.
You've done the dancing bear, right? Where you've counted the passes and missed the dancing bear. That means you're dishonest. I can show a video with the dancing bear and you counted the number of passes and you missed the dancing bear.
Yeah, now you've got to draw the analogy and compare it to this. Go ahead.
He's missing the dancing bear, the flat plane that he's using to calculate these things. He's not drawing attention to it because he's not paying attention to it. He's lost all respect for the plane of reference.
The one he just measured.
Are you saying, John, that he's committing a dancing bear fallacy?
I guess so. I don't know what else to call it.
About 5 degrees. And that's about 400 kilometers. That bit there.
So what he's now done is, instead of the degrees being between the horizontal plane of reference and the light in the sky, the degrees is now a twisting of the globe. The globe has become the protractor. This is actually really useful. I have tried to explain this to people so many times in the last 8 months, 9 months now, right? And it's so hard to explain that at some point you've got to do the switcheroo. You've got to take an angle from a flat plane, the one he showed you, drawn diagrammatically with somehow useful loads of parallel lines. Yeah, that's the baseline, that's the ground, for the ground position below Polaris. Flat Earth. Now, it's not the angle he's measuring that forms the ground, it's the protractor being twisted that forms the distance that was flat on his flat map that he showed you only 30 seconds ago. So now it's a distance that isn't a flat and linear distance on a flat map, it's how much we twist the protractor we just used to make the measurement of a flat Earth. Because the protractor's now the globe.
So how many of those slices do you need to go all the way around and multiply it by 400? And it turns out we need about 77 of these slices to go all the way around the Earth. And
you're not in hell measuring angles from hell. Go ahead.
I want to say about the protractor there, because I pointed this out yesterday when myself and QE and Adam and John watched it. The protractor, what he's actually doing is he's placing that at the center of his globe, the baseline of it, at the equatorial plane. And then he's measuring along the surface of the protractor via the angle. So he's taking those 2 points, the point he was at, in comparison to the top of the protractor, he's treating that as the North Pole. And the second point, he's then treating that as a point that's either north or south of that first point. And via the angle from that flat plane, he's measuring along the surface of the protractor in nautical miles and claiming a globe.
And 77 times 400.
Sorry, I thought you were
This
done.
is the trick. Yeah,
Yes.
no, this
Yes,
is
that
the
is the trick. Yes.
Because it starts with the celestial dome, right, which is between two flat planes. So, but the best way to represent that mathematically is a flat plane and an arc. So that's why they use the protractor. That represents it mathematically in orthographic form. Then what he's doing is, if you treat the top of that protractor, the arc of it, as a mathematical celestial dome, just place a smaller protractor inside that, and that's the arc of the globe, or one hemisphere. Hemisphere. That's what he's doing. This is how he fools himself into believing
I've got it up. I've got it up as a diagram.
Something.
I've got it up from my slides that I made from the presentation I did at the end of last week or beginning of this week. I'll lose track of time. Anyway, so what we've now got is, here's the plane we've been describing as the plane that's equatorial and extended celestial. Well, on this diagram, we've just got the celestial equator marked as this circle of equal elevation. That's a flat plane. Then what he's describing is the angle that he's just measured from hell, marked here as 40 degrees. Well, the angle is between you and the horizontal plane of reference the observer is standing on, as measured by Thunderfoot, and the light in the sky. Well, when he takes it from the surface, it doesn't give him an angle. So he has to justify it by saying all the light's coming in parallel, therefore I'm legitimate in putting me in hell and making the globe the protractor around me. Let's just see if I can find a... here we go. So this is how you've actually taken the measurement off a plane with an angle to a point in the sky, whatever it may be, and the ground position below it. That's latitude in this example from Thunderfoot. If you can then imagine that the light that is extended out to this point by your view is actually a much bigger circle all the way around here, then this becomes the globe. But once you've created it with those flat earth angle measurements to the North Star, you've then got to transpose that person's position on top of it to have you believe you're standing on it. Obviously, you don't get an angle anymore, so when it comes to actually functionally using these angles, they transpose it back into hell, which is precisely the process that Thunderfoot's just described, ending up with this. You in hell, standing on an extended equatorial plane, that's the surface of Earth, with the globe that you're no longer getting a measurement from, you're in it, representing the angle with respect to that plane from the centre of hell.
Is, according to the spreadsheet, 31,000 kilometers, which is definitely on the small side. Yeah, just so we're clear, the actual circumference of the Earth is about 40,000 kilometers.
Now, you might think I'd be kind of upset and feel inferior and a failure in being about 10,000 kilometers off in the size of the Earth. But
let me get it straight. Even when you used a flat Earth elevation angle measurement to Polaris and went to the extent of actually following this process, you still ballsed it up, did you, man? Well done. I mean, I didn't need any of your extrapolations to go in the right direction for you or the wrong way for you. It's embarrassing that you cocked it up. But they're only extrapolations based on flat Earth measurements to begin with, so who cares? But still, you ballsed it up. You couldn't even get the extrapolations and calculations right. Well done.
But in reality, for less than $100, less than a day, and for using a high school protractor and a $10 bubble level,
and a flat Earth baseline to the ground position of Polaris, you're not going to mention those bits that you absolutely needed.
I'm actually pretty happy with that. You see, I can actually...
Me too. You measured Earth flat. You proved our point that we've been barking on about since the beginning of 2024. Well done, right on cue.
You look up the cheat codes and find out what the actual answers are.
So cheat codes, what you'll do with these angles that came from a flat Earth. Here's that flat Earth that you got the angles from again. It's just poking out the side of your left-hand side of frame. Yeah? You don't have these on a globe, mate. And the calculations that you've got on the middle of the frame, all of those calculations are angles that have got two straight lines. Let's just put up on screen what these measurements are with respect to. They were with respect to these angles that he took. One along the ground, one to Polaris. Now, without this straight flat line that he extrapolated out after the fact, violating the measurement, and therefore violating the initial angle calculations, he suggests that this line's bent. It isn't. You're delusional. Furthermore, there aren't multiple lines coming in when you measure one line to the Polaris and one along the ground, so you can suggest that this angle measurement with respect to the surface that has absolutely nothing to do with the ball and cannot function on a ball is justifiably put inside a ball. No. We measure Earth flat and that's all there is to it. And so do they. We've been saying this since 2024. We've been hinting at it all through 2023, but now we can make it overtly clear to all. Earth is measured flat whether you're a globe believer like Thunderfoot or a realist that knows that measurements with respect to a flat plane of reference are just that. They're not measurements with respect to a flat plane of reference that can later be bent. It isn't. But you're entitled to your belief. You can bastardise these flat Earth measurements into bent lines for baselines all you like, Thunderfoot. You can transpose those lines that wouldn't be giving you angle measurements off the surface of a sphere into hell to satisfy your globe belief all you like. Meanwhile, you did measure the surface nice and level. End quote, Thunderfoot.
The latitude for the Betelgeuse is about half a degree high. Yeah, well, measured in the aftermath of a thunderstorm. And the latitude for the sand dunes was
half a degree higher with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, then? Yeah.
about half a degree low while being...
So half a degree lower with respect to the horizontal plane of reference. It was lower towards the horizon than it should have been when you measured Earth flat, like in this diagram on the left. You just got it poking out a little bit. You just got a little bit of a hint of the flat Earth that you'd need for the angle. Where's the globe in this diagram? I mean, this is the maths with all the measurements, isn't it, Thunderfoot? You'd think you'd have a globe next to it, wouldn't you? No, but you haven't, have you? You're measuring a flat Earth, and that's why all the calculations are based on those two straight lines with respect to the ground. Earth's measured flat for everyone. It doesn't matter if you've got a globe belief. You'll still measure Earth flat just like Thunderfoot does. And did. And will always.
Eaten by mosquitoes. Put the correct numbers in, and of course the size of the Earth comes out perfect. So how big is a half-degree error in reality?
Okay, for a perspective of angular sizes, the little finger at arm's length, which is about...
This is a flat Earth prerequisite. We're talking about angles then. One of them's going to be the base, the ground, and the other is going to be the angle in the vertical with respect to the horizontal for the angle, to describe this as angular. Yeah, perspective, you don't have, Thunderfoot. Perhaps you are unaware that you're begging the question, proof of nothing. Perspective hijacking Earth curve maths has no perspective in it. Maybe you were unaware when you drew out your diagram of a flat Earth with conveniently hallucinated parallel lines that no one saw, and a convenient parallel line above it that didn't have any reference to anything. Conveniently, those lines also, in orthographic view, have no perspective representation. Nothing changes in angular size when you're looking at the side of your own head in an orthographic diagrammatical representation, which is what you're now describing. A flat Earth prerequisite for angular size. Go ahead, John.
Just to be fair, Earth curve maths doesn't have Earth curve in it either.
No, it's got a derivation of surface level and eye level parallel with one another when measured. Height above the surface level for eye level and the surface level for the differential calculation of the angle, represented at altitude when you raise above the flat surface level in the Earth curve maths. Earth is flat in Earth curve maths too. Yes, that's absolutely correct. But in respect to this angular representation that Thunderfoot's trying to describe with respect to a flat plane of reference, just ask Conspiracy Cats. Maybe he'll, quote, give you a flat Earth for that. End quote, Conspiracy Cats. Because you will absolutely require one, Thunderfoot. You seem to be using a flat Earth 90% of this video. Quick shout out to Quantum Eraser, who's going to be live at 1 PM US Central, 7 PM UK. And I think it's 5 a.m. Sydney time. Okay, that's pretty late. Sorry, Aussies. So Be Here or Be Sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel, where he's destroying Rob Parks and Boy Zero, the Sky Grifter. It's the second part, the one we were going to do on Saturday on Bulbusters. But that is tonight, as you are watching this live, and I can do a plug, as I noticed it coming through on Skype. So Be Here or Be Sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. I'm sure this particular endeavour, which was covered by Quantum Eraser yesterday, he may join before we end up finishing this live stream to give his 2 pennyworth on Thunderfoot. I hope he does. But yeah, now I've plugged his show. He better bleed Nad do. Anyway, we'll crack on.
About there.
Yes.
Just so you know, Ruhif made a video about 2 years ago, I think it was. And I posted it in Masturbation a while ago, but it was ignored. Showing perspective on a globe. That might be worth a look.
Other than undermining the point I've just made about the begging the question proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, and the differential between eye level and surface level that John pointed out, beyond that attempted potential undermining of those 2 points, what was the point in that, Brian? Go ahead.
Just that there's people out there on the globe side trying to add in perspective. That was the very thing that was hijacked.
Right, part of the calculation perspective hijacking is there for a reason in the title. It is hijacking the effects of perspective by excluding them when you look at things in the distance. Anyway, anything else to that, or can I crack on?
I do have a point to make. You said that he used the flat earth 90% of the video. Could you point to the 10% where he didn't use the flat earth?
Okay, fine. It was more like 2% when he had it on his bonnet, when he just scrawled out a sphere and said, well, it's all parallel. He didn't give any detail about it, but he did have a scrawled out globe. He also, at the beginning of the video, said he'd been on a spinning rock for such a long time, he should have measured it by now. So maybe 1%.
I have to admit, I was watching what I could, but that was one of the most profoundly ironic videos that I've ever seen, where the person was actually doing what he said he wasn't doing. And he was demonstrating exactly what he was against. But still, he was reporting his own little belief thing while he was doing exactly what he hates to do and what he's against. The irony of it was hilarious.
About half a degree. That's big enough to cover the sun or the moon. The thumb is about a degree.
A degree like as in the angle up from the horizontal plane of reference that you would need to describe this with. You keep using flat earth concepts. You shouldn't. Got no right using these.
All of your knuckles at arm's length is about 5 degrees, which is roughly, so that's
roughly useless if you're describing something spherical.
Roughly the difference in the height of the pole star between Betelgeuse and sand dunes.
And my error on both measurements was about the size of the little finger at arm's length, which under the circumstances, I'm actually pretty happy with.
So if you want to...
Just to quote Conspiracy Cats again, just for Thunderfoot, I'll give it you on behalf of Conspiracy Cats. You can have a flat earth for that, mate. Conspiracy Cats said you can have it. Go ahead.
He's now trying to somehow belittle his absolutely horrendous error. He was 25% out. 25% out of 100. And now he's trying to go, it was just the size of 2 of my pinky fingers, or whatever nonsense he's going on with. Do you know what I mean? That's just the weight of 2 pinky fingers. Yeah, massively out.
So 25% out with his calculations of a sphere Earth radius derived from flat Earth measurements. The calculation was out. Who cares? He measured Earth flat to get the measurements to do the calculation to get it wrong. He got it wrong. That's kind of stupid. Nevertheless, he still measured Earth flat.
Latitude and...
Latitude would be the elevation angle of Polaris. That's a flat Earth measurement. You're about to use a protractor with a flat baseline to describe that angle.
The altitude of the pulsar are basically the same thing. I'm going to take a line here from 90 to 0. And that's going to be from the center of the Earth.
Okay. So let's just find that diagram for you, ladies and gentlemen. So that's from the centre of Earth. Why? Is that where we measured? Do you all remember me asking you if we'd measured from the centre of Earth? Now it seems like arbitrarily replacing an angle that definitely was measured on the surface with respect to a horizontal plane, as per the definition of the angle he just measured. Now we're in hell. What a shock. It's not like I've already got it on screen ready and waiting. Yeah, why would you be doing this? Nobody's in hell. We measured it from the surface.
Going up north.
Up north, did he just say? Sorry, am I missing something? North would be a direction on a flat surface. We're talking about horizontal directions. What's he talking about? Up north. What, you mean when you're in the middle of a globe, north doesn't make any sense anymore? No, it doesn't.
Burrowing up to the surface.
And that's going to be... Okay, I've screwed it up slightly. Oh, no, maybe not. There we go. And that's the equator, yeah?
What, the flat line from the point below Polaris to the outside edge that you would measure it from at a minimum? That's the equator. Yeah, this straight line, this straight flat line that you'd measure Polaris with is the equator. You're drawing the equator like it's a point, but in reality it's a circle of equal elevation, isn't it? That's how it's measured. It's not measured in hell. It's not from the centre of hell where you're not measuring it out to this point. No, you get it with an angle. One of the straight lines is the one that you ignored earlier. Maybe that's why. Tell me he's not deceitful now. He's making this equator line really clear. But if you're measuring Polaris, you're measuring it with respect to the equatorial plane, aren't you? But now the equator's in hell. No. Not when you measured it. Not when it was referenced to a plane. Not when it was an angle off a surface. Suddenly it's in hell. Now we've got a lot of focus on this line. This wasn't the line you measured. This baseline wasn't the line that was measured. We weren't in hell when we were measuring this. It's just a deceiver.
So your latitude...
No, latitude's a measurement from the surface. He's measuring it in hell.
Could I say that, yeah, I can't say he's not deceiving people, but the first person he's deceiving is himself.
He's just described what latitude is. And on screen, for my audience, he just said latitude is, and he is literally about to draw a line from hell. No, you deceiver. That is not how you measure latitude. That is not what latitude is. You are a deceiver. Now, if you're going to tell me that a measurement when... it's going to be easier with some parallel lines I hallucinated. That's your justification for now saying that this measurement is in hell? No, it's not. It's just a deceitful man. And I'll make it absolutely plain. He's now saying latitude is a measurement in hell. It's an angle in hell. No, it is not. Thunderfoot's a deceitful man. And he's lying to his audience when he claims that an angle in hell is somehow capable of measurement. It isn't. Just easier when he hallucinates a few parallel lines that he didn't see. That's deceit.
Just 1 second, Nathan. What he's actually doing at that point is using a globe's geometric edge. Because that's how they get... This is how the calculation works for their latitude. How they try and place latitude on a globe is it's the angle between their geometric edge and Polaris. That's what they try and say is how latitude is got, because we get latitude from an angle between the visible sea horizon and Polaris. So he's literally calling the visible sea horizon the geometric edge of his globe. The very thing that was debunked.
No, he didn't do it with the horizon. He did it with a bubble level.
He didn't, but that's what's employed. If you understand what he's doing, I do, and that is what's employed. That the horizon is geometric.
Hello, Adam. Hello, John.
Afternoon, guys.
Yeah, I'd join if you'd hit accept guest.
Okay, you're here now.
This angle here, yeah?
The one in hell? This angle here? Where was that angle? Did we measure that angle? In hell? What angle here? The one you've just made up by deceit, by pure fiat. Suddenly we're in hell with an angle. What angle in hell? There isn't one.
That's your latitude.
The one he's
No,
using
angles
with
in
the
hell aren't
high
latitude. There you go. You've ruined it. Brian's ruined it, like he always does.
No, Brian didn't ruin it. I did. The angle that he's getting from his high school protractor. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Is a high school protractor different than a junior high school protractor or an elementary school protractor?
Yes.
Or are protractors just protractors?
High school protractors have Comic Sans.
I got it.
Meanwhile, his deceit was just laid bare, and I'm going to replay it because Brian rumpus it like he always can play Martyr 2. Brian always ruins these things.
Forget that.
So your latitude is this angle here.
Liar. Calling you out. You're a fraud. That is not a latitude angle. I defined it, you didn't. You were in front of your car when you were actually gathering this measurement with respect to the horizontal plane of reference. And now when it's nice and clear and well lit, he's telling you the baseline's in hell. From the core of Earth. That's what latitude is it? Liar. No, it is not. That's not what you just did. But you're a deceiver, in spite of Brian's, what's the word, white knighting for you.
Yeah, that's your latitude.
No, it isn't. No one's getting an angle from hell. You're a liar. You didn't like mentioning the line when it was in front of your car, but now it's nice and clear that it's in hell. It isn't.
So I'm in America at the moment. This is about 40 degrees.
Kind of like the degrees you were measuring off the flat surface, but is now the protractor. So it's a turning of the protractor. If you were considered to be in hell, it would be the number of degrees that you turn the protractor. No, but that wasn't what you measured. You weren't in hell turning a protractor when you took this measurement. That's not what you did. But that's what you got to do to create a globe. Basically turn the measurement off a flat Earth into the protractor. Yeah? What does this look like? Here's the surface. Here's the star. Here's the protractor that he stood measuring with. That's now the globe, is it? This is epic. This is a great demonstration of how this process is committed. Great. Go on, whoever that was.
I said every time you say protractor, you need to say high school protractor.
He's turned the globe into a high school protractor.
And I also know that I've measured. Right, your horizon is 90 degrees to the line to the center of the Earth. So.
Sorry, a horizon? You're going to need to define that, you lying shit. No, that is not a horizon. What, the apparent position where the ground or sea meets the sky? You think that a horizon is defined as 90 degrees to the centre of Earth? Oh, yeah, look at that beautiful horizon in the distance, 90 degrees to the centre of Earth, obviously. No, said nobody at a beach ever. Where's he getting this from? Just make it up.
What he said makes no sense at all.
He's making it up.
So it's a contradiction with regards to what Brian was saying earlier. See, at this point now, he wants his horizon to have a rate of change of slope of 0. But it can't have a rate of change of 0 because he's already reaffirmed it as the leading edge of a ball. Therefore, there must be a rate of change based on R. This is where they don't know which bit to grab, which bit to reify. And it creates that contradiction there. It is straight and horizontal, but it is Earth curve. Can't have both.
Yeah, you can't have both. What he's now drawing with the horizon claimed to be tangential to a sphere with a point that he's going to draw a line meeting so he can transpose it parallel to the surface with the line going out to space. I'll just let him draw it. Just give us a second.
Oh.
Perfect. So you see on this diagram, let's make it bigger. On this diagram, he's taking this as his zenith and this as the line along the ground for the baseline. Notice how we've now got a nice clear baseline. When it was the actual process and he was measuring it, it was demonstrated in front of a car, but now it's on a sphere with a GP position that's out in space. So if you're measuring from your zenith out to Polaris, let's say that this is Polaris where he's marked north. Can I do it? Just. It's a very, very tight angle. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, we can measure this angle with respect to this surface, right? Well, then what you're measuring is the GP point along the surface to the ground position of the star. Well, in his diagram, have we got a ground position that's on the surface? Nope. It's in space. It's not on the ground anymore. You paying attention, Jaren, of the Jarenism channel, who couldn't understand this? You don't get ground positions meeting the ground at 90 degrees to the star in space. It's supposed to be on the ground. Of course, on the ground's now curved, and it won't give him an angle anymore. So a horizon could be defined as a 90-degree position at your zenith. No, that's definitely not a horizon, and you haven't got a ground to measure this angle with respect to. What you're leveling to? Tangency, we covered that too, didn't we? What was the spirit level for? To teeter-totter on the top of a ball to give you a point out in space with a ground position to it? No, it won't be on the ground. And the line isn't curved. So you're screwed. This is nonsense. Meanwhile, the actual functional angle is working in hell. That's why all of this rigmarole of claiming you got parallel light rays, like he said, made easier, what with the bit up here on the flat plane that you're actually measuring, the parallel light rays that is going to justify this transposition from an angle measurement he can't acquire to a position on the ground that's not on the ground, down to hell. That's why this whole faff and vague alluding to the idea that it's easier to have parallel something. I just won't say what. That's what this dance is all about, because he's going to move an angle that isn't functionally acquirable from a curved surface into hell on a plane, the equatorial plane, so it can still function as an angle. It's just you're not measuring it anymore, and you're not using the one you measured. But we can do that because all light comes in parallel. Remember when I mentioned it earlier? Here it all is. I just drew them in arbitrarily when I hallucinated them.
That
and
is basically where my bubble level is.
Sorry, Brian.
And Brian ruins everything, and white lights for Thunderfoot.
I'm taking the mickey. It's only because earlier you were like, I put this into Master Beat and nobody looked at it, of course. It's like, you could have just said, I put it in Master B. I'm not sure if anybody looked at it. I actually studied that document and have it framed on my wall, Brian. Did you know that?
What did I put in Master B?
I don't know.
You don't even know. You can't even remember what it was. It is a red herring away from how I ruin everything and I white light for Thunderfoot.
Total red herring.
And by ruining everything, he means when QE interrupts. And by white lighting for Thunderfoot, he means when they call Thunderfoot an idiot.
I can't. It's amusing and it's got me stuttering. But even when I try and segue away, like you potentially would if you're in an awkward conversation, you'll throw in a fallacy because it'll normally, 99% of the time, throw any normal person off track. Going, something's happened here, I just don't know what. Right? Brian, that's a red herring. I'm like, shit. No getting anything past anybody here. Even if I want to try and segue away. Say again?
Also, to say that Brian is white knighting for Thunderfoot, you're actually white knighting by calling him a liar because you're assuming his intelligence and saying that nobody's that dumb.
There's a legitimate Brian complaint. We'll get to that at the end.
I don't mind. Do you want to do that now?
No, let's get to the end and then we'll go back.
Shout out to Unitox Femu. Where are oceans and mountains on his drawing? Oh, I'll tell you. I'm glad you asked. Thanks for the super chat. The mountains would be on this tangent line and stuff, you know, with respect to sea level, that's sea curve, that doesn't actually give him an angle and isn't level. Just so we're clear. Nice that he's put his, nice that he's used his spirit level. Oh, how wonderful. I just noticed that. How epic. So this spirit level that you just happen to be using as a ruler, is it level? Because apparently this was the level angle that you just got. The spirit level doesn't look very level when you use it as a ruler just by chance to draw the line that's tangential to the 90 degrees of horizontal that is a horizon according to your non-defined garbage you made up. I mean, you'd think if you were using the spirit level, it just becomes a ruler now, right? Its function is now a ruler to give him lines on a globe that he doesn't have. It's not being used to establish horizontal planes like it was in the measurement. Now it's just been reduced to being a ruler. If you're drawing out the measurement, You'd think you'd have realised how unbelievably stupid it is to use the tool that was originally used to establish a horizontal plane as a freaking ruler!
When it's completely level, it's going to be there.
They're like the tool that was now being used to just draw a straight line, but the tool wasn't level when you drew it. So we've got a horizontal plane where the angle's coming from, but it's a transposition of a line that you drew on a curved surface that doesn't have ground positions when using a spirit level that wasn't level as a ruler. Why wasn't the spirit level when you were describing how it would be on Earth's surface? Is it because in this diagram you need two horizontal planes of reference? I'm pretty sure that you've got your horizontal plane of reference utilising the angle in hell, because that's why this little dance is taking place.
And my pole star is going to be up there somewhere. So that angle is...
Sorry, is it just me, or have you now got two pole stars? You've now got a pole star here and a second pole star here. Why? Did anybody see two pole stars in his original measurement? Because now he's telling us that latitude is this position with respect to north. Up north, remember? I highlighted that too. Okay, so we're pretty clear where this North Star is. You drew it. But now the North Star's over here. Why? Why have we got two North Stars? Oh, is it because we'll justify it with all light coming in parallel, meaning that this North Star here is actually North Star here because we're moving it to the centre of hell after we've measured it with respect to a plane that isn't the surface? I see.
Is the one that I've measured. Now, the simple way of doing this is to convince...
Did you hear him just lie there, Brian? He said, this is the angle I've measured. Did he measure? Did anybody see him in hell? Let's just hear him lie again.
Up there somewhere. So that angle is the one that I've measured. Now, the simple way of doing this is to convince you
that angle is the one I've measured. He then simultaneously filled in the this is an angle diagrammatically here and here while he was saying it. This is the angle. He drew two angles, one in hell and one on the surface to a different North Star that wasn't representative of the North Star in the original assumption that we can use these angles in hell. This is a cluster screw.
Can confused people confuse themselves? Yes.
Can stupid people say stupid things? Yes.
Yes.
yourself these are the same, is you just cut it out and you show yourself they're the same.
Sorry, that was a bit fast talking. Should we hear that again? We just got these two angles, it's just the same. Okay, let's hear that very concise and openly clear about what you were doing when you said this is the angle and then drew two, and then said this is the angle, this is the same. Let's just hear that again.
Is the one that I've measured. Now, the simple way of doing this is to convince yourself these are the same, is you just cut it out and you show yourself they're the same. The
easiest way to do this is to convince yourself that these two are the same. Okay, so the easiest way to do it, no, you didn't do it this way, you just measured an angle. How you did it was like this. There's Polaris, there's the baseline, that's how you did it. When you say the easiest way to do this, do you mean the easiest way to employ your religious zealotry of being on a ball is just to assume that an angle you measured is now in hell and that they're the same? Mumble, mumble. Oh, yeah, that's the easiest way that you can convince yourself that you're in hell now with this angle, because an angle in hell is the same when you assume Earth's a sphere, and you can be in hell to measure an angle from when you're supposed to be doing this to get the size of Earth. You already know the size of Earth. You're in the middle of it when you've measured the angle. You've put yourself in the middle of it. What the hell?
When he says the easiest way to do this, right, at that point, he is either not understanding what he's doing or he is lying, because the easiest way to do what he's doing is just to treat the Earth as a flat plane. That's the actual easiest way. That's what they always do.
Do what? He keeps saying do it. What's hold on. What's it? Do it. What's it? He did it when he was measuring the angle as well. He talks about it. Hold on, John. He's talking about doing something, isn't he? He's just not being specific about what it is. Let's define what it is. It is a transposition of an angle that is not measurable in this diagram in orthographic representation. It, the angle that wasn't capable of being measured with respect to the surface because that's now curved, and apparently horizons are at your zenith, tangential at 90 degrees, to a ball that does not give you 90 degrees of anything. It's a ball. But apparently this non-measurable, non-functional angle is going to be the same, it, as this angle in hell. That's what it actually is. And apparently, moving an angle that you cannot measure and defies the actual measurement that he took, being transposed into hell makes something, we don't know what, easier. Well, I'm going to define what that something we don't know because he hasn't defined it is. It's ball zealotry. That's what's being made easier with this. This isn't done in navigation. You don't transpose angles into hell for a navigation process. You do it on flat maps like he showed.
More
No,
sorry, John, go ahead.
It is believing you are calculating a sphere from a plane. That's what it is. He said it himself. Just rewind it and listen back to it. This is how he convinces himself that a flat plane is spherical.
And my pole star is going to be up there somewhere. So that angle is the one that I've measured. Now the simple way of doing this is to convince yourself these are the same, is you just cut it out and you show yourself they're the same. The more sophisticated way of doing it is to just extend these such that they're parallel lines. Right? Now, if you have parallel lines...
If we have them, where were they? Well, all these lines, where were they? Did we get those? We're just making it up, son. Just invented this crap. We didn't have any. If you have them, life's much more complex or easy. We didn't. You didn't show them. Yeah, did we see any parallel lines? Did he have one or did he have several? Like he's shown diagrammatically, for his justification to move his angle to hell. When we didn't have them, he didn't use them. He just used a flat plane that he didn't actually mention the baseline for. And then the thing he established the baseline with, which is right next to him right now, was merely used as a ruler. I mean, it wasn't using to level jack when he drew his diagram, and the diagram doesn't have a level surface anymore. Only the one in hell. So this can still functionally operate as an angle with respect to an equatorial plane. I showed it you earlier. In fact, I'll do that again now. Flat plane. That's what's utilised when you imagine that the globe is a protractor wrapped around you. That's what he's doing. Yeah, we're way ahead of you, Thunderfoot. Perhaps you hadn't been keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate.
The same, and that, well, these two angles are the same. These two angles are the same. That angle, that angle, that angle, and that angle are all the same. So you know that this angle here, because this is two parallel lines.
What is? Where were they? Keep asking you. You hallucinated them, man.
Intersected like that is the same. And let's do this in a different colour. Light pink. You know...
What are we doing that for? Why are we now doing this? I don't get it. I mean, I don't know why we covered this whole section of extrapolation from flat Earth measurements into hell. There was no point. We covered it before he did it. We're covering it while we're doing it. Is there anything else to this video, or can I just spin on through this garbage? We've preemptively covered it. Now he's covering it.
You know that angle there and that angle there are the same, right? But you also know that this is 90 degrees.
So we know we've got 90 in hell. Well, that's convenient, because it means you can use the centre point of hell that you're not in as an equatorial plane. Like a flat plane. Like this. A bit like the measurement you originally took. Obviously, you didn't mention the flat plane then. And 90 then. I mentioned it several times, didn't I? But now we got a 90 in hell. It wasn't described with the measurement that absolutely required it, with respect to what that 90 would be, a ground position. But now we've definitely got 90 in hell. Where did you get a 90 degree in hell from? Sorry, are we establishing 90s with plumb bobs in hell? No, we're not.
And you also know that this is 90 degrees. So...
Sorry, 90 degrees to the horizon? Because you had this point here being the horizon. You said it was 90 degrees to your point that you described as the horizon. So 90 has got something to do with the horizon then. That's a shock. Yeah, that'll be what you use to establish a horizontal plane of reference if you haven't got a bubble. Now, you are incapable, incompetent, and not actually functionally using it correctly to extrapolate out from the flat measurement that you didn't get accurately enough to derive your globe from the flat Earth measurements. But your own incompetence aside, we know something to do with the horizon has got 90, do we? Oh, really? Because your horizon on a ball would be this point here, below the surface level. That would be this point, the 90-degree point that's got something to do with the horizon as you described it. Let's just make this bigger so we're absolutely clear. We all heard him describe what the horizon was at 90 degrees. And now we've got it absolutely affirmed that this point here is definitely 90. What? The horizon? Yeah, we know. But that would mean it's this line, doesn't it? Going out into space? Your horizon on a ball in your ball maths is this line, mate. It just doesn't give you anything to do with angles or the capability of measuring them anymore. And it certainly hasn't got anything to do with 90s. If this is your surface, where are you getting the 90 from? There's never 90 degrees to a ball, clown shoes. Oh, you'd need this tangential line that would be the surface that you're not measuring anymore with GPs that are in space, ground positions in space that aren't the ground. This is a cluster screw. No, we know that 90's got something to do with horizontal. Perpendicular to it would be vertical. That's what 90's giving us when we measure the ground for angles with reference planes and a flat Earth. I'm done.
Well, when he sits outside the Home Depot, or wherever it is that he went in to buy this level and his protractor and his laser pen, and he thinks to himself, you know, if Polaris is this massive, huge, giant superstar in the sky, then that would mean that every point on the surface of my hemisphere, the convex hemisphere that I'm trying to claim I live on, will be 90 degrees to that if I put the horizontal lines through my sphere. It's time to buy that level and that protractor. That's basically what he's done. It all starts and ends with him pre-assuming that Polaris is this massive star in the sky, that all lines from the northern hemisphere of his globe are all 90 degrees to.
If that's 90 degrees and that's your latitude, and this is 90 degrees and that's your latitude
at the horizon,
and these two angles are the same, then basically this angle here is this angle here.
In hell.
So basically, by measuring the
angles
altitude of the pole star,
you didn't measure the latitude of the pole star. Your latitude to the pole star is now in hell. Why are you talking about measuring it when you got it described and justified as being in hell? That's not a measurement anymore. You've bastardized and violated the original measurement by putting it here because you couldn't get it from the curved surface.
I
think you need to see the subtleties underneath this video.
What's that?
He himself is in hell.
Yeah.
He himself is in hell, and that's why he's making this video. Regardless of what his intentions are, the driving force is the hell that's going on in his mind, because he knows he can't measure the Earth, but to be a two-dimensional flat plane with topography above and below it. He knows he can't. So this is like this is a projection of his own mental hell. So he is in hell, both figuratively and mentally.
This is 100% known to astronomers since forever.
Because they've all been in hell.
Seeing as one of the mounts that we have is called the German equatorial mount, and
the equatorial mount is also referenced to a horizontal plane. You level it.
The way that it works is one of your axes has to be...
But why is he talking about this now? He's talking about a tool that's referenced horizontal again, so he's just hijacking flat Earth over and over again. And once he's introduced his complex... Go on then.
Even play it.
Aligned with the axis that the Earth spins on. So you have to set...
Where do you get that axis from? Go ahead, John.
Well, you need a plane of reference to describe the axis from. So he thinks that the equatorial mount is on that plane of reference and spinning.
Yep.
He doesn't understand. Sorry, he doesn't understand that they're going to become clear. She'll show with his own diagram, moving diagram. He doesn't understand that the equatorial mount is designed to be pre-assumed to be on the equatorial plane of a globe at vernal equinox, which is the March equinox. And that equatorial plane is is pre-assumed to extend out into the celestial plane, giving you a much bigger horizontal plane or flat plane, and it's then pre-assumed to be stationary. He thinks that the equatorial mount, the movements of it, are there to forego the rotation of his globe Earth, and that it sits on a convex surface. No, the whole point of the equatorial plane is to work, or the equatorial mount is to work with a moving celestial dome.
Right, so
That's
here
the
it
whole
is.
point of it.
Here it is, both north and south in representation with a globe Earth inside it. So here is the point that the angle's coming from. This is the measured angle marked in the void of Earth in hell, with what is effectively the protractor wrapped around and marked as being the globe. Now, obviously, it's only hemispherical, but this is depicted with both north and south. This, from this point that you are measuring the angle, you have what is ultimately needed to reference the angle to, which is the extended celestial plane. So inside this sphere, which is representative of the view you get of the stars, you can form a grid with the angles you get to them. And the angles are referenced to this plane that he's created inside the globe. That's called the equatorial plane. So equatorial plane is the flat plane that you're referencing in hell, and the extended celestial plane is the extension beyond the equator. Again, flat, for the angles to be referenced. This whole rigmarole is to get you inside hell so you can still use the angles with respect to a plane. This is what he's done. Let's just bring this diagram up. He's saying that you're getting angles that are parallel with the equator. Well, this is the actual diagram of what the equator in his diagram represents. A flat plane with 90 degrees to the North Pole along a flat surface. The equator's an extension of the minimum angle that you get from Polaris. It's an area of equal elevation. Now, this diagram essentially shows you how they've stacked up lots of areas of equal elevation to create a globe. But once you create it, you can't get angles from it anymore. So to get it to function with maps and models of stars, you've got to put yourself in hell to get it to function again after creating it. Here's the diagram with your XYZ coordinates with respect to the equatorial plane. This is what you're dealing with, this bit. The flat plane in hell. So it can functionally operate with the angles out through the protractor that is now the globe to the extended celestial sphere, with an extended celestial plane extending out from the globe Earth protractor. But you are on this flat plane. You're not in hell. They've taken the measurements to the stars with respect to their ground positions and then projected them through the protractor. But you still have to use the flat plane. That's how this magic trick works. This is how he's done it after producing a flat plane surface on a sphere and saying that north is up. All look familiar compared? Why have I got better diagrams than him? It's because I'm exposing his fraud rather than hiding it. This is how the angle must work off the equatorial plane. Notice you've got terms like prime meridian. Yeah, they're wrapped around a globe too after measuring them off a flat plane. But they've got two now. Now we've got two lines. Oh, we've got up, north and east on the square that's on a circle? Why, have we got a tangent plane? This circle doesn't have that. Oh, but it's okay, because if I kind of mumble a little bit and say that this angle here matches this angle here, then I can basically justify being in hell. It's all cool. I've got better diagrams than you, flat earther. I'm talking to you, Thunderfoot. You're the one with the flat earth measurements. Measurements. Everybody hearing?
Of your telescope that rotates once per day to be parallel to the Earth's axis of spinning.
You need a flat earth for that, being parallel and having an axis. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, thunder flat. The AQ mount has on it an underscope that you align to Polaris, right? The whole purpose of this is that you align this point to Polaris, this little scope to Polaris, and it's all based on your latitude and whatever. And then you will be in alignment with the sky for your scope, for your actual telescope to work, right? But the whole point of this is that it's actually difficult to do it because you have to be precise and get it right. And any movement of, and I got this from Wolfie, admitted this, or not admitted, but he said it when I asked him, because he has an EQ mount, is that any movement of that, the feet of that mount, either 1 millimeter to the left or the right, will knock out your Polaris alignment, right? Polar alignment. Now, if Polaris was this massive star, right, that is covering that everywhere from the surface, from its GP out to the equator, that everywhere basically every angle is basically straight, or is basically 90 degrees to Polaris at that point, as they're claiming with us being on a convex surface. If that was the case, then you wouldn't need fine tuning on that alignment, because all you would need is the angle. You just have to set the angle, and it would be already fine, because Polaris would be this massive star that you couldn't miss. It's like shooting at a clay pigeon, like a clay pigeon. It's like shooting at a clay pigeon that's 50 miles wide, and it's 100 feet away from you. You couldn't miss it. Do you know what I mean? It would be impossible to miss it. Yet, if they move the feet of that mount even by 1 millimeter left or right, it loses its alignment. So how is Polaris this monstrous star that he and they needed to be? It's impossible.
So if you're actually traveling around with a telescope, you have to adjust this angle, otherwise you don't track the stars properly.
And what they look like in practice. The first is simple. One of the telescope's axes is parallel with the Earth's axis of rotation.
So if it's parallel with the axis of rotation that must be flat to describe it as an axis, then it's parallel with a flat surface. Yeah. So you're lining up the telescope with a flat surface parallel with the ground that's flat.
No. He's bullshitted you, you see. You've been Jedi mind tricked. He's told you you've lined it up to the Earth's axis of rotation. No such thing. No such thing. At all. All we've got is stars in the sky. You lined it up with Polaris, mate. Yeah? But he's Jedi mind tricking you into thinking there's this pole that you line it up to, which means you're now commensurate with any presupposed rotation.
No.
No.
I
You
said
align it to the flat plane of the stars.
I'm saying that the axis he used was defined with and described with a flat plane. The axis itself is a reference to a flat Earth. You're absolutely correct to drop it in, because I didn't. That doesn't mean we've got an axis. It means he's describing a flat Earth for his imaginary axis. He's still utilising a flat Earth to describe it, and then suggesting that that flat Earth he's utilising to describe his imaginary axis is parallel with the telescope. Well, that extended and unnecessary description actually references him levelling the scope, doesn't it?
Yeah, obtaining a flat Earth elevation angle for him then to turn into a central point of rotation of the thing that's not moving that he claims is moving.
Right.
Good catch, Adam.
It just
You are
rotates
sharp.
once per day around that axis, and that's it. That's all you need to do. And in practice, they look like this, the German equatorial mount. So to set it up, all you got to do is align one of those axes parallel to the axis the Earth spins on.
Right, what have we got here? So we've got...
He has an EQ mount on the outside of a rotating globe, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the thing I was telling you earlier. That he doesn't understand it. Or he's just lying, one or the other.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, but listen, go back 5 seconds and listen to the way he says what he says. He's trying to say something, then he has and then it's like a little stop point where he knows that this is rubbish. Just listen.
Practice, they look like this, the German equatorial mount. So to set it up, all you got to do is align one of those axes parallel to the axis the Earth spins on. You're basically done. Now, it turns out to do that about right ain't so difficult. But if you just want something that's roughly aligned, it's the simplest thing to set up ever. You just go outside, you point that axis due north with an elevation equal to your latitude, and
elevation equal to your latitude is a series of flat Earth measurements. Now, to have it parallel, if you're twisting and spinning on a ball, it's never going to remain parallel. Meanwhile, you've introduced this extra line parallel to the centre of an axis that you didn't measure by pure assumption. We didn't see this. This diagrammatically did not represent what you did it? So when I said he's just hallucinated this, here it is in what was in his mind when he was just measuring a line to Polaris and a line along the ground. No, actually, I'd got a second parallel line to the centre of Earth's rotation, only capable of being described and invented with reference to a flat plane also.
Boom, you're done. So yeah.
Boom! You're done with what? Your flat Earth measurements that you've utilised through the entire presentation? No, we're done utilising what you've shown in terms of measurement. Now, your calculations were garbage after the fact, and they weren't measurements. You were telling the audience by deceit that, no, this is a measurement, this is your latitude, this is how I got a measurement in hell. Because you just take this angle to be this angle. Okay, so even though you're suggesting that this is somehow you measuring Earth, and your automatic assumption that that's sphere-shaped, you've already got a sphere-shaped Earth to put an angle in. Wow. Meanwhile, you've measured Earth flat for the angle. Everything else is irrelevant.
You can quite happily measure the size of the Earth on your first go, and literally...
what, like you didn't? You can measure the size of the Earth on your first go, where I completely failed to utilise a calculation based on flat Earth measurements to give me the accurate current rhetoric of a size of Earth when extrapolated to be sphere-shaped based on flat Earth measurements. You failed! Why are you encouraging your audience that they can have success on the first go when you failed? Are you delusional? If you're going to tell people to go and do it also, you're going to have at least got it right. Was it just that, oh, well, I've gone out and done it now, I've spent the 80 quid on fuel, I've got to turn it into a video, even though I ballsed it up. Ballsed what up? Well, the extrapolation of my flat Earth measurements didn't give me the end result I was hoping for. I mean, I still had to use the flat Earth angles in the calculations, and then explain why this angle here is mumble the same as this angle here.
Never done this before in my life.
You can tell.
This was me losing my virginity to this, but...
Well, here's you in the dark measuring an angle off a flat surface. This is a straight line along the ground with respect to a laser pointer to the sky. This is a flat Earth elevation angle that it's showing at dusk with no lighting. You're measuring the ground. Look at the line that you've got. It's not curving.
Over 50 years old for less than $100. And...
failed miserably. In anything except measuring Earth flat.
Less than a day.
To measure Earth flat.
Using a little...
flat Earth elevation angle measurements to the star called Polaris, as diagrammatically represented here with a flat baseline and angles to it.
More than a high school protractor, and...
it's got Comic Sans as the font.
In the end, had errors of about...
Nathan.
Yes.
He said he's never done this before. Yes, he has. He's begged the question of a globe every day of his life.
Plus or minus 25%. And if you want to...
plus or minus 25%? If you were quality control, they'd hang you.
Prove the Earth is a sphere, it's trivial. You just do exactly the same measurement.
But you didn't prove your Earth was a sphere. You assumed it. After taking flat Earth measurements and extrapolating out the angles as they'd be calculable in hell. To function on a plane in hell. With 90 degrees in hell. What are you talking about? You didn't prove a sphere. You're strapping this on like, oh, your dumb audience won't notice that you didn't do that.
But you go east-west, not...
east-west, a reference to a flat plane. We're back with this flat Earth map on. This map's flat.
North-south.
With respect to a plane.
And, shock and horror, you will find that the altitude of the pole star doesn't change at all.
Why are you showing us you drawing an angle in hell and telling us what the pole star does above a position in hell? In terms of what it does or doesn't do. Did you notice it didn't change when you were in hell?
Because the elevation of the pole star
is an angle. Elevation of the pole star. What, like an elevation angle measurement? I think this would be an appropriate time to define precisely what that is. Measurement of an elevation angle. Elevation angle is the angle between the horizontal plane and the line of sight measured in the vertical plane. The reference direction, i.e. an elevation angle of 0 degrees, is a horizontal line in the direction to the horizon. Radar tutorial. But he seems to think that a line in the direction of the horizon... Now, he seems to think a line in the direction of the horizon is a point that you're standing on with 90 degrees in all directions below and above you. that doesn't reference anything in the distance that's got anything to do with the horizon, because this is his horizon. So this defies radar tutorial, as it did the other two definitions I read out. I'll repeat them now. The altitude angle, sometimes referred to as solar elevation angle, describes how high the sun appears in the sky. The angle is measured between an imaginary line between the observer and the sun and the horizontal plane the observer is standing on. Sustainable by design. So, what are you babbling about? Other than measuring a flat Earth, you've not achieved anything. You've begged the question of a sphere and then showed how utterly useless it is.
Is basically your latitude.
Is basically your latitude. No, your latitude would be your elevation angle measurement off a flat Earth to Polaris. You showed it in very dark silhouette against your car a minute ago. That's what you actually measured, wasn't it? Of course, it's best if this is the bit in big lighting and the actual measurements as dark as hell.
If only there were a geometry or a spinning ball, say, for instance, where the...
Is it just me, or is this line from the outside edge of a sphere not remaining parallel with the line from the axis point in his fantasy ball that he didn't get this measurement from, because you won't get an angle from a curve? Is it just me, or is it continually changing?
Elevation of a
that's changing.
Fixed distant point.
Fixed? How could it be fixed? It's moving around.
Changed as you went north-south,
Yeah,
but not...
Go on.
This is that whole parallel light ray thing, where the Polaris is at a fixed distance from every point, except for it can't be because he's on a convex surface, so it's obviously not going to be a fixed distance. But this is what he's trying to claim: that Polaris is at this fixed elevation at all points, and it's not. You don't know the elevation of Polaris. He doesn't know what it is. It's that the Polaris is not moving. He's moving, and he's changing the angle, which gives it an apparent elevation above the surface of Earth, which doesn't actually tell you what its actual elevation is in any way, shape, or form.
East-west, which I was actually going to do on this trip by driving a few hundred miles west to the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. But the bridge was out, and it was a very long detour, so I put that one on hold. So if you're teachers or something traveling for a school trip, why not add measuring the size of the Earth to the list? Or hell, if you're traveling for vacation, why not the same? After all, if
you didn't measure the size of Earth. At best, you measured an area of equal elevation if you extrapolated it out based on the angle that you did measure off a flat Earth. You didn't measure the size of Earth. Now, if you're going to suggest that this is an accurate extrapolation, then you'd expect to at least get it right. Add this method that I got completely balls up and wrong to your school children's list. And if you want to show an example of how not to do it, send them to this video.
You're going to live on a spinning rock.
You're going to need to assume and measure a flat Earth to do it. Go ahead.
Say, if you use the word measured there, the only thing that was measured was a flat Earth elevation angle. As for the rest of what he did, it's all pre-assumptive calculation to derive him to his size of his pre-assumed theoretical ball.
Entire life. Seems like measuring how big it is something you should maybe do once in a lifetime. Yeah, maybe.
And just remember, if you're going to do it once, Nathan, make sure you do it as wrong as he's done it. At least 25% wrong, meaning anything you calculate is wholly irrelevant.
Yeah, make sure you violate the original measurement once in a lifetime. And this is because these angles are kind of the same. It's just easy. It's mumble the same.
I think part of his problem was, though, that if you look at the equipment he got, I don't think he got thick enough crayons. So he was probably out of energy in the middle of the night.
Didn't have enough acid to give us, as a camera point of view, what the parallel light rays he was fantasizing about looked like. I mean, we saw them as Crayola on the diagram, but I mean, we didn't see them in the measurement. We just saw the flat Earth elevation angle he took. And then I defined it with 3 different definitions as requiring a flat Earth for the measurement. Like on screen now, these are out of navigation videos where they're describing elevation angles and circles of equal elevation. 90 degrees to the point below the star would be this triangle. Circle of equal elevation to the outside edge of it. This is elevation angle measurement by description. The 90 degree is on the ground, not in hell. It's part of the measurement.
He made sure the 90 degree was there, didn't he? With his spirit level and stuff. That's the... See, just from an empirical data point of view, just to critique it even further, he goes at the end, once he's figured out he's 25% out, he goes and shows you what half a degree will look like in terms of how that could have disrupted his thing. Look at the standard deviation of his results, of his 5 or 6 results he takes. There's 2.5 degrees variance in there, which is 5 times the amount that he's mitigating for. Whatever he's done, I think it's probably more luck that it gets anywhere near his pre-assumed ball. But everything he's done has got such margins of error that you, even if you were actually measuring rather than calculating something, you couldn't draw any inference from it because he's like I said, he needs thicker crayons.
Can I briefly say something?
Yes.
Being that he's using crayons, he's trying to make it simplified, trying to show how simple he can measure and prove Earth's globe. The funny thing is for the normies and the children that might be watching, if you notice everything that he does longitudinal and latitudinal measurements, he uses that paper, whether it be his little scrap paper or whatever, the map. Everything's flat as he acquires that. But he doesn't use anything spherical.
Anybody else?
He doesn't use those with the protractor or with the compass. He uses all the instruments on a flat surface, on a flat piece of paper to demonstrate the longitudinal and latitudinal measurements.
Right.
So right there, that's to tell you something's, this guy is a liar. I mean, period.
Well, as I've had so much pushback,
else?
now you've hold on. Now you've said it. I've got to push back like everyone pushed back against me. Last time it was me saying what you've said. He's deceitful. You're saying a liar. Well, no. Now I'm pushing back against it. He believes this. It's part of his belief, and he's telling you the easiest way to believe this is to understand and appreciate that these angles he's created with respect to a ball he can't measure are working in hell with the angles you originally acquired from the plane you did measure. Now, in his mind, saying that these angles are just the same and the easiest way to imagine this is to suggest that these two angles are the same is true. That's what he actually believes. Now, us pulling it apart at its root and saying, no, you're actually just measuring 90 degrees below the star. That's the only 90 that's involved in this angle measurement when you derive a circle of equal elevation and call it the equator or call it latitude. You are just measuring a flat Earth for that. That is what it is. No matter sticking it in a twilight scenario with the car not very well lit will hide the fact that you're measuring a flat Earth. Him and his crap extrapolation is just that. Doesn't make him a liar. Doesn't make him anything beyond believing his own bullshit if I'm to call him deceitful. I'll concede to every criticism I've had. But I'm going to lay it back at your door, D. Anybody else got anything to add to this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
If we take his pre-assumption of being at the center of the globe and his measurements creating, let's just say, a circle of 360 degrees around you, then if you, his claim, not measurements, but his back calculation, right, after measuring off a flat plane, if we take what he says, remember he said that he was out by just the width of 2 pinky fingers. Remember that's the way they always try and do this. They try to mitigate for how wrong they are, or they try and cover up something that's horrendous, like the velocity at the equator. If we were rotating at 15 degrees per hour, the way they try and cover that up. Well, technically, what he actually did was he actually missed if you go from a center point of his globe, he actually missed 78.5 degrees of that globe. He was out by 78.5 degrees out of 360. So it's not just 2 half-a-degree pinky fingers, right? It's 78.5 degrees if you go by an actual distance around a globe, and you turn that into degrees. He's out by over 78 degrees. So see the way they try and fudge the numbers to make it look like they weren't as wrong as they were. That is seriously wrong.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I've got lots of diagrams floating up from celestial navigation manuals that show what we're measuring. We're measuring the ground with 90 degrees below the star, exactly as I described, interjected between his bullshittery, and attempts to mask the actual measurement of a flat plane of reference, like shown with his laser pen and spirit level. That's what you're actually doing. John, did you have something to add? QE?
I did, but I'm right in the middle of breakfast. Give me 2 minutes, man. Just talk for 2 minutes. Get back.
Well, I'll do a plug for your show, and then hopefully by the time I finish plugging your show, you'll have snacked on whatever you're snacking on and give you comments on Thunderfoot Clown. Okay, so be here or be sphere. Go on. Go on.
I was going to say, I digress. I agree. I got cut off of the internet, but I heard what you said at the ending point. I retract my calling him a lie, because he made a good point. He really believes this, so it's just misinformation. That's all.
Okay. Be here or be sphere for Quantum Eraser live on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel tonight, 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. Central Standard. So check it out. They're covering Professor Robert Parks and Witsit, otherwise known as Boy Zero the Sky Grifter. So it's an open discussion. It was going to take place on last Saturday's Ballbusters, but that ended up turning into just a really nice chat and a good discussion between Brian and someone else who I can't remember. Who was it that was discussing it? I can't remember. Anyway, that aside...
Eli,
yes, it was. Yeah, it was a really good chat. I remember it. Anyway,
I was the third party in that was ignored.
Like Brian's always ignored in Skype.
you just ignored Eli.
Look, can you all stop hosting me, please? Thank you. Be here or be sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube. I'm still getting hosted. Be here or be sphere on... I don't mind the interruptions. It drags it out a bit while QE empties his mouth and hopefully adds some actual useful input to the Thunderfoot stuff. Be here or be sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. It'll be just QE, I believe. Is it an open discussion? I shouldn't really be asking him because he's not going to be able to answer. The whole point of doing this is to buy time. I've done my plug.
Nathan.
Yes.
Just wondering. I sent you one of my debates against a pilot, ex-military pilot of 50 years. I don't know if you want to do a review of it.
Yeah, can someone stick me that? What's your name?
Angels of Light. I sent you a DM.
Oh, you're the guy we covered, aren't you? We covered one of your other debates, didn't we?
You covered Bob the Science Guy and Coriolis, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, definitely we want to cover that. Yes, please. Can somebody grab that if he's posted it in Discord and stick it in Just to Be? We'll cover that tomorrow.
Hold on a second.
We'll cover it tomorrow, so there's no urgent. D-Rose, D-Rose. Bloody hell. Yeah, there's no urgent urgency. Oh, God. Oh, God.
Hold on a second, guys.
I'll do a QE till I get
the
there.
video.
Oh, God. There's no urgency while we're in the middle of a live stream. We're not going to start covering that now, 2 hours into a live stream. But thank you. If you can get it to me, that'd be wonderful for tomorrow. Anybody else got anything? I'm waiting for QE to actually give us 2 pennyworth on Thunderfoot.
Yeah, but that's not answering my question. Why aren't we going to cover it now?
That was too Irish. One more time.
Yeah, but that's not answering my question. Why aren't we going to cover it now?
Because we've done 2 hours. Because I've got other things to do. That's why. Tomorrow's another day. You want to cover everything. Yesterday you wanted to cover Thunderfoot. Now we've covered Thunderfoot. Now we must cover something else. No, we'll do it tomorrow. We'll be fine.
We have to live for the...
Sorry that my mic was on, but I was trying to ask a question. What year did Thunderfoot make this video? Because I'm trying to figure out why. It's almost like the redundancy just kills me. I like that we go over it. Redundancy is good because the more you redundantly...
Okay, we don't need the end waffle. Bloody hell, D.
When?
Yeah, you just keep waffling, though. It was made 2 days ago.
Oh, my God. Okay, this is sad. All right.
It also gives me another
I think Righteous had something to add, Nathan, before you get to me.
Okay, well, I'll do my call to action, then we'll go to Righteous. Right, please let Thunderfoot know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. The idea being that if he was to respond, he'd do the same for me and put a link to my video when letting us know just how wrong we are when we point out in no uncertain terms that he's measuring a flat Earth. Go ahead, Righteous.
Yeah, I was just going to do some quick admin, but I settled it in main text chat. Basically, I was going to say to Angel Lite, he doesn't check his DM. Nathan's not familiar or privy with Discord. So you got to post it in main text chat, which he did, and I posted it in Skype.
Thank you very much. QE.
Thank you.
Yes, can you go to 8 minutes 43 second on Thunderflat Clown's video?
And the Earth. Okay, so we're going to work in kilometers.
Just stop.
And we'll...
Okay.
Just stop it. Was it up on screen?
8:48.
We're going to set this to
8:43.
0.6 degrees around the Earth.
Yeah, right there. Stop.
Okay, so we're going to...
Okay.
So you lofted up a watermelon hanging watermelon-sized curveball to Brian, but he was up in the potato tree with Candace, Kissing.
ING.
He tried to get back in time, but he didn't. You see that little legend with the miles right there? That's a linear measurement. And then he superimposed it on the flat map. Why didn't you superimpose it on a globetard?
I did cover this. I did say it was linear. I just didn't reference the scale, but I did. I pointed out. I asked Brian to bring.
Not you, Brian.
Oh, okay. I'm ace still, though, right?
didn't get back fast enough.
Hold on. Let's just clear this up. Hold
I
on.
was running up the stairs. I
I'm
nearly
still
fell over.
ace, right? That's all good, yeah? As long as I'm still ace, that's all that matters.
Brian ruins everything, and White Knight's for the baller.
That was a red herring.
And you didn't say linear measurement.
Yes, I did. You go back and
No, you
listen.
didn't.
I absolutely did.
You did not.
Yes, I absolutely did.
Hey, I'm co-hosting the shit out of this.
Anyway, can I get your comments on the actual video? Because you've watched it all the way through yesterday while I was doing Omi videos, so I know you've got a comment on it or an opinion on it.
Yeah, did he eat the crayons?
A constructive, flat earth debate based rather than attacking him as a man and his stupidity level, which is high, I'll grant you, just so we can move on.
We can move on. That's my summary. Prosecution rests.
Is that it? Really? You watched the whole video and you've got no other comment?
I commented yesterday on the whole video.
Nobody heard that. Oh, this is what we have to deal with.
Brian did. Adam did. You mean nobody, as in you, nobody?
No, the audience. Nobody in the audience got to hear you critiquing this.
Yeah, too bad for them.
No, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, I'm not going to say I said it as technical as QE said, but that was kind of the point that I made about everything he used as far as his tools for his demonstration. With that linear measurement, he didn't do it on a globe-shaped spherical thing. That's the point I was saying earlier. So QE kind of brought it out more, what I was trying to say. He did everything and he superimposed it. He didn't superimpose it over a globe. He went on a flat map. Is this what I'm saying? He's not using his belief tool, I ain't gonna say model, his belief tool to demonstrate his belief to be factual when it comes to these latitudinal measurements, angular measurements. He's using the real thing, the flat maps. He's not using his tools. He should use all his tools to prove it. That's how you demonstrate. You let people see what you're doing. He's not doing that. So I like what Chewy asked. Why did not he use his globe tool?
Because Earth's flat.
What I said about it yesterday, because I'm going to say this because you're probably not going to ask me, so I'm going to act as if you were going to ask me.
You've been here the whole time.
Yeah, what I said yesterday about it is if I wanted to make a video showing how they deceive people and themselves, I wouldn't be able to make a video any better than what he made. What I would make would basically be exactly the same thing as what he is showing, but I would just be pointing out where the deception is happening. Whereas he's showing where all the deception is happening, but he's not pointing it out because he doesn't realize that he's being deceived, even by himself.
Oh, that's a very, very good summary. And go on, John.
You don't want to hear my summary involved curse words, so I don't think I can give it.
Nah, you only said dumb shit world tour.
No
that
swearing.
was outstanding.
Anything else?
Yeah. Thunderflat Clowns World Dumb Shit Tour.
And also Be Here or Be Sphere for the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel. 7 p.m. UK, 2 p.m. Central Standard for QE Live. But with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Hit up Thunderfoot and let him know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me and all that good stuff. Of course, another massive thank you to today's Discord and Jeepers panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.